Hey, Coach, when you think about all of the iterations of the roster that you guys have had, and now you've officially clinched a spot in the top six, just what does it say about the group that's been able to come together and achieve that?
Yeah, I mean that's where you go. Those guys and what they sacrificed for one another, and they believed we could do this, and they gave what they needed to collectively for us to have this opportunity.
And CJ coming out and having 25 points in the first half, especially after what, he did in Cleveland the last time. I'm just curious, just having a veteran who's able to just do what needs to be done regardless of the night.
This year for our team is about, building an identity and, building a foundation. And so regardless of whether that was going to take us to this place we are right now, and regardless of what happens going forward, I think, that in and of itself is a win. And so CJ not only being a big part of that, he has an identity as a player. And, you saw, some of that, which is his ability to score, but I think it was the way that he scored. There were some things that we tried to identify in the game plan, and he was just locked in. And, in addition to that, I think he's been able and willing to do whatever this team needs at various times. And, tonight you saw him put the ball in the basket.
Coach, clinching today, does that change your attitude going into the last game of the season, or do you still play
same way? Right now, I think we're just excited to be in the situation, and whoever we play is going to be really good. And it's hard for us, it's hard to even try to figure that out. It's possible that certain teams want to play us, and I don't think for us. The primary thing I think is for us to be healthy, going into the postseason. So that being said, that's been the one thing that has been consistent through the last, few weeks and months is you just don't know what's going to happen. It's hard to predict all these games. They're all going on, and so wherever it falls is where it falls, and we'll prepare for the playoffs, regardless of who that is.
Hey, Coach, you talked pregame about sometimes the difference between a Mitchell-centric lineup and then a Harden-centric lineup. Tonight, just because of the injuries and the rest, you saw just Harden and Mobley. But it seemed like you used a lot of heavy pick-and-roll, aggressive coverages, bringing that tagger over early. And there's a lot of success in terms of when Mobley's on the floor, lots of turnovers in those moments where he caught in the short roll. What did you like from the pick-and-roll coverage in those moments? Is there some things you feel you could take away in a potential series matchup?
Yeah, I think it was, it's a little bit of pick your poison. I think one of the important things for us in pick and roll defense has been to be able to make adjustments, not only based on who we're playing, also within a game, and also for us with different lineups, because we've had so many different lineups. So it's a credit to our guys that they've kind of grabbed onto that. But you're right, that short roll, they've got, guys that are capable of doing that and making plays in those situations. And historically, there's no better pick and roll player than James Harden. Donovan's getting him a run for his money. We saw that last game. So, we know how good they are. We knew how good they would be tonight. And I think we're, prepared for a really tough game. And we were able to break the game open. I thought our guys our competitive level, went up as the game progressed. So whatever we're doing from a pick and roll standpoint for us, I think the emphasis really is on, believing in the game plan, being prepared to adjust and execute.
Felt like almost a quintessential Dyson game in some ways.
Yeah.
triple doubles not all the time, obviously, but just the impact that he makes play in, play out. What did you see from him on a night when, big numbers and all?
Yeah, he has a sense of kind of, finding what the team needs. I think what you saw is his ability to make plays in a variety of ways on the offensive end. I think our guys trust him, and Dyson not only impacts the game in his own right, but I think maybe the best compliment you can pay to a player is he makes everybody better.
These last two games haven't necessarily been the easiest for Jalen, just with fouling out in Cleveland and then obviously the three early ones. What did you like about his adjustment in the second half where he only picked up that one foul?
Well, I thought as much as anything, his ability not to lose his concentration. Obviously, he was probably angry with me for taking him out with three, but we were playing well through that stretch, and we did get him back in at the end of the second quarter. Those are always really tough decisions. But like I said, I think, his focus coming out in the second half, having not played as much in the first half, was really instrumental. That happened to him in a different way earlier in the year at Detroit. I'm not sure. I can't recall if he may not have scored in the first half. But he let the game come to him. I don't know. You probably know the line better than me, but I remember thinking about that mental toughness that's required. And as I've said, I think the experiences that we've had throughout the course of the year really